In these videos, I want to talk to you about what a theme is and how it is primarily connected to analyzing and interpreting a certain text, or really, I want to use the term artifact that is very carefully designed and has certain elements to it that go beyond the mere function of the thing, but there are style elements to it or design elements to it. So if you think in terms of a house, okay, or a building, you can design that simply so that it serves a functional purpose. You have the pipes, you have the roof, you have the walls, you have the wiring, etc. So there's a functional aspect to that building. But then you might want to consider, well, what color do we want the bricks? Do we want bricks on the outside? Small bricks or large bricks? Or maybe siding? How about a certain type of okay, if siding, what color? How about shutters on the windows? How about the interior decoration? That sort of thing goes into what's known as the aesthetic elements of the object, in this case a house. So the aesthetic elements are very important to a human because we tend to really appreciate art. We tend to appreciate the beauty, the harmony, the organization, the style and design of things. And, you know, if you are in the habit of styling your hair a certain way or dressing a certain way, as opposed to, well, let me just clean the hair and comb it, or just cut it short so that you don't have to worry about it, or let me just wear whatever it fits me and keeps me warm. If that's not your modus operandi, then you probably are also considering, well, what looks best on me? What's the best outfit? What colors go well with my skin tone and that sort of thing. Okay, so that is when you start considering the aesthetic element of dressing or hairstyling or that sort of thing. So when I use the term aesthetic artifact, I really mean anything that you look at in terms of not only what it is function, you know, in its essence, but also in its appearance, in its organization and design, in its style, whether or not it's, well, in a very broad and essential sense, beautiful or not. So we have intuited notions of beauty and harmony and fit, but when we go to examine these, we are forced to try to become more articulate in what we understand makes up our notion of the aesthetic. And when I say artifact, I just mean anything, any creation that springs from a cultural matrix, or it comes forth from the society, like a society womb giving birth to this thing. So, you know, the Honda Prius is an artifact of our culture, of our time, because it's the result of a collective demand for a vehicle that approaches a certain mileage, goes a certain speed, uses a certain amount of energy, that sort of thing. So that's what I mean by artifact. Literally something that has been made and that reflects its maker or its time of fabrication. You know, the culture, the society that made it. So you can see that poems and novels and movies and songs are all artifacts of the culture. All right, they were made by a certain culture, or a group of people within a larger culture, and they sort of manifest or show attitude and desires and values and beliefs in how they're formed, how they're made, how they're styled. So I don't want to say, hey, let's talk about how to write a theme about a short story, because that might limit the idea in your mind to, oh, it's just, you know, short stories, fiction. No, I want to talk about how to write a theme about an aesthetic artifact. But the term itself, the phrase itself, aesthetic artifact, is a little tricky to get your hand on. And it's basically what I've talked about. Any sort of a cultural product that not only has a form and a function in the culture, but also has a design and a style to it that bespeaks or symbolizes or expresses some attitude, some value, or some notion of harmony and beauty and a sense of fit that is in a culture. Okay, now, fiction, okay, any sort of fiction is going to be this way almost by default, because what you have in fiction that is meant to be a sort of a that is meant to be taken seriously is you have a surface level to it with its own characters and its own events that don't that seek to speak about a central idea or a central notion or a central theme underneath it. So especially in the fine arts or the study of literature, fine literature, the idea being, famous short stories or novels are cultural artifacts because they are meant to give a picture of the culture or to portray a message valuable to the people of that time. But they also involve very much the aesthetic because they are carefully designed and packaged very carefully. Everything has a reason for being the way it is. Characters are carefully developed, carefully placed in a narrative, and so very clearly, short stories, novels, poems, all of those are going to be aesthetic artifacts. Just remember that that's not the exhaustive list. You have movies, you have film, documentaries, cartoons, newspapers, popular magazines, songs, anything like that is also an aesthetic artifact. So it's by definition a cultural artifact, but many of them, if they have careful design to their structure and styling to them, in other words, if the art involved with it matters, the design matters. Think of a website, for example. You can't just put words up there. You have to design the website. You have to think of where pictures would go, the logo, the slogan. Okay, so you're very much concerned about the color scheme, the design, the graphic layout. That's an aesthetic artifact. Okay, we're going to focus on short stories here, or short novels, in fact, and or a narrative poem. So we're going to focus on pieces of literature that historically over the time has been viewed as very important pieces of Western literature, to engage this idea of writing a theme about it. So those are the things I'm going to use just to illustrate specifically how to write a theme. Those are the aesthetic artifacts, poems, short stories, or novels that I'm going to use in the class.